Dear friends, good evening. Thank you for joining us this week to another Gnostic Lab of Practical Application. Let's talk tonight about how is it that we can solve problems. Because solving problems is, is something that we all have to do. And in our regular exchanges, in our dynamic, we have to deal with challenges that are financial. We have to deal with challenges that are social, political, religious, matters of the family, and even on an internal level, we have to deal with challenges that have to do with our own morality. It is important that we see this because when it comes to the flow of achievements in our life, as we go from one circumstance and into the next one, well, we tend to walk out of some circumstances with more success than others. And the goal here is for us to understand how is it that we can continue flowing in this path of life? What is it that we indeed have to do so that we do not become stuck? Because this condition of becoming stuck is considered a problem. But this word problem has maybe some connotations to each one of us because of our own conditioning. Because maybe a problem for someone is just a matter of a little sweat and sacrifice, but for somebody else, a problem involves significant loss and suffering, and it has a lot more impact. So to get ourselves away from from the variation induced by that conditioning, instead of saying problem, even though that's what it is, let's speak about conflict. Because when we say conflict, if we look at ourselves as a good system that handles things, a conflict is something that will prevent you from reaching some objective. And from that perspective, now we can look at a problem more as a conflict, as a barrier that is affecting, limiting your ability to reach an objective. And now we can see it more as something that we can overcome. And the reason those barriers emerge is because we tend to identify with whatever is happening. And when we identify, we have already learned that the mode of operation of the ego is that we identify, and the moment we identify, we fascinate with that. And in that fascination, we fall into the sleep of the consciousness. So when we become identified with the problem, in reality, we become the problem. When we face a conflict and we identify and fascinate with it, when we are standing right there looking at that obstacle, the problem is not the obstacle. The problem is us. We have to change that because we see the obstacle and we don't like it. We see the obstacle and we fight with the obstacle. We complain on why is it that the obstacle is there? How is it that this is happening to me? Or why is it that somebody else is just putting that obstacle in my path? So we see the obstacle. And in that mental drama that we fall into, we resist it. We sometimes deny that it is there, and we try to live our life creating workarounds to not deal with it. Or we just reject it. Yeah, we just don't want it, and we just put our hand on our chin and we just pout, and we just wait for things to change. But many instances, there are aspects of us that will look at these obstacles and we even justify them. Sometimes we justify them in such a way that we deprive ourselves of the opportunity to continue making progress simply because they are aggregates of defeatism that exist in each and every one of us. And when that's there, then we're choosing to not fight anymore. These obstacles can be driven by our ambitions. We are not, for example, satisfied with what we have. But we cannot fool ourselves and just think that not being satisfied with what we have is only looking at the perspective of our belongings, our properties, our jewelry, our house, our furniture, because that is just too trivial. That is very easy to deal with for the most part. But the challenges, the big challenges take place when we are not satisfied with what we have in terms of, for example, spiritual development. When, for example, we are not satisfied with how much we already know about something, with how much attention we are getting, with how much we are being recognized. This situation of not being satisfied with what we have is deeply associated with our ability to express gratitude. And as we observe ourselves, we can see that sometimes externally we can project gratitude in ways that people will simply be amazed at how grateful we are. But internally, sometimes we are not as giving. Sometimes we fail to express the right gratitude for the difficulties and the challenges that we're facing. If we take to heart that metals are tested with fire, well, then we know that we need to go through our own fire so that we can demonstrate the quality of our honorability. So we have to look at our gratitude, and we have to, rather than complain about these things that happen, we just have to look at them and say, this is another good test. This is another stepping stone for us to continue moving forward. And instead of fighting it, just figure out new ways on how to handle things, increase our abilities and our dexterity, and with that, expand the solidness of our emotional foundation. When we look at these obstacles from that perspective, we start growing internally in fantastic ways. So this is saying we need peace of mind. We need calmness of our emotional center. We need to have both mind and emotion operating in harmony so that we can objectively look at these obstacles, and as we look at the obstacle, that we can observe it, comprehend it, and as we face it, take the right action to move forth. Look, if we calm the three centers of the human machine, we become very effective in anything that we do. We have done that in many Gnostic labs for many weeks and many moons together. We calm the body, we calm the mind, and we calm our emotions. Calming down gives us the opportunity to listen to the voice of the innermost. That voice of the silence that will give us an immediate indication on what to do next. Now, that voice of the silence can be a whisper, but it can also be an image. It can also be that sense of inspiration that moves us forward and that gives us deep certainty about what we have to do. So we have to ask ourselves, what is the principal factor that is bringing our emotional, our mental peace to an end? We have to ask ourselves, what is the contradiction that is creating our internal conflict? Because behind every obstacle, there is an internal contradiction that is very present in the mind. It's going to be a little challenging at first. Many of these contradictions will not be immediately evident. They will exist within the realm of the subconscious mind. But when we calm ourselves, when the mind is relaxed, when the emotion is standing at the center of the circle of Tao, when the physical body is calm and relaxed, we can see them. And we can see them in the same way that the child in the image is seeing something with alert novelty and alert perception. We will see the thing and we will recognize it. We will acknowledge it and we will intuitively know what is the action that we should take. This is an interesting exercise for us to do in our experience of life, because the source of our conflicts is our constant state of affirmation and negation. The mind does not know anything else other than compare. And whatever you are looking at doing, you are doing it from a mental perspective that is offering you the thing that will give you the least amount of inconvenience. A lot of inconvenience translates as suffering. We don't want that. A lot of inconvenience translates as pain. We don't want that. Some inconvenience, well, we may be willing to negotiate, but we certainly always favor whatever option is the one that brings us the least pain, even if it is just temporarily, even if it is just as a workaround. And we know this because we have found ourselves saying many times, I'm going to deal with that later, not now. Many of us have been in difficult, crucial conversations where we have said, I don't want to talk about this right now. I just need to get up and leave. And that is just a simple example of the mind moving you into the space of what brings you the least amount of discomfort. Our source of conflict is the constant state of comparisons of the mind. That has to do with what we are. It has to do with what we do. It has to do with what we have. It has to do with what we want to be, what we want to have, what we want to do. And in many cases, the option is as simple as, what is it that we don't want to experience? So the key takeaway here for us to deal with problems is not just that we have to be willing to calm the mind and calm the emotion and calm the body. It is that we have to look at what is our source of contradiction. And Samael says it very simple. Resolve it. But that may not be that simple, because to discover our source of contradiction, solving that may mean that you have to be willing to dress yourself with courage. It may mean that you have to be willing to take heroic action. It means that you have been dealing with the situation for so long, and it is such an aged drama in your life, that now, for you to solve it, as you step out and allow the truth to emerge, you may be seen as irresponsible, as a liar, as a manipulator, as all of these things that make us very uncomfortable. Nevertheless, that is the solution. Rather than just looking at that fear as an obstacle and choosing to continue with our workarounds and hiding things and justifying other things to avoid that pain, we are better off looking at what is holding us back. And when we see that what is holding us back is a fear, we just have to follow the advice of the ancients. If you're afraid of that, you need to run, but towards it. And that means take the heroic action. With that heroic action, that does not mean open a path forward and just leave behind bruises for everyone who is involved. Certainly, we need to apply beauty into everything that we do. We need to acknowledge that there are many inferior aspects in us. And sometimes the beauty that is necessary is that beauty of love. is to face our fear, to be willing to take the heroic action of breaking through it, of exposing the truth, of assuming the responsibility that is necessary for us. And if necessary, to apologize, to acknowledge the pain that we have induced in others, and more than that, the aggregates within us that have led to those conditions. Friends, if you find yourself in a situation like this is not something that should keep you suffering. This is something that you need to take as a phenomenal opportunity because of the massive discovery that you have just uncovered. As you do this, you need to invoke of a power that is superior to the mind. Now that you go through this exercise, you have a deeper comprehension of that aggregate. You have tangible experience of how you thought, how you acted, how is it that you evaded and eluded things, how is it that you became crafty and creative with workarounds and lies and all of this. And now that you see how that aggregate has led you to behave, just to go through the sacrifice of invoking of the power of your Divine Mother to see that aggregate reduced to a cosmic dust. Doing so not only frees your consciousness, it also weakens this aggregate every time more and more to the moment that the aggregate is no more. And remember, when the actors are not present, the drama cannot take place. It is in our best interest to just see these defects and eliminate them. But when it comes to the source of our problems, we have to look at what is our contradiction. Once we see it, we need to take courageous and heroic action. So let's go ahead and let's relax our body just a little bit. Let's do a little bit of retrospection. And in this exercise of retrospection, let's invoke of our innermost so that it reminds us, where is it that we have some dormant problems that maybe we need to go out and address. And let's also ask for the opportunity to, when the moment comes, to be courageous, to be willing to take that heroic action so that we can alleviate this condition and improve our level of being. So let's go ahead and let's close our eyes. With our eyes closed, let's make ourselves aware of the sensations in our physical body. If there's anything that feels a little uncomfortable, let's give ourselves a few seconds and address it. It could be a ponytail. It could be a watch that feels too tight at this time of the day. Maybe the shoes. Maybe the belt. But once we have taken care of that with our eyes closed, let's go ahead and take a deep breath in 1, 2. 1, 2. Let's make sure that our feet are flat on the floor, that we have our hands resting comfortably on our thighs, that our spine is straight, and that our head is resting comfortably on our shoulders. Let's go ahead and take another deep breath in 1, 2. Now that we find ourselves here, let's go ahead and make ourselves aware of our emotional state. By now we have learned that our emotions are transitory. They come and go just like the swing of the pendulum. And whether we have been happy or not, we know that the pendulum takes us from happiness to sadness, and that we go through these cycles over and over again. If today we feel ourselves indifferent, well, we know that other times as the pendulum swings, we find ourselves very interested in things. If today we feel a little uncertain, a little afraid of the circumstances, we also know that that pendulum can swing onto the other side and bring us into a condition of confidence. And what is important is that emotionally we remain at the center of the circle of Tao, where we can objectively look at all the opposites in any direction that we're looking. And this posture sets us in a very favorable condition of power, because for as long as we remain at the center of the circle of Tao, we can face any circumstance. We can deal with any challenge that life throws at us, simply because at the center of the circle there is no identification, there is no fascination, and there is no sleep of consciousness. So now that we can look at our emotional state, whatever emotional state that may be, we do not look at it with disdain, but we observe it, knowing that it will pass. Whether we consider it favorable or unfavorable, it will pass. And we are grateful for that. And we experience it with satisfaction, because whether it has been favorable or unfavorable, it has put us to the test. So let's go ahead and take another deep breath in. 1, 2. With every exhalation, just allow your body to sink a little deeper onto that chair. 1, 2. And as we make ourselves ready to start, let's create that circle of protection around us by starting with the mantra Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Kopihana Vayavaya Swaha. So let's repeat it together so we can learn it well. Krim Krishnaya Govindaya Kopihana Vayavaya Swaha. Let's say it again. Krim Krishnaya Govindaya Kopihana Vayavaya Swaha. Krim Krishnaya Govindaya Kopihana Vayavaya Swaha. Allow yourself an opportunity to remain comfortable in your sitting posture, but using your objective imagination, simply look up and you will see a star. It is a flaming star that surrounds you, a flaming star that shines upon you and creates a shield of protection. With this, then let's go ahead and create that circle around us by chanting the mantra Elion Melion Tetragrammaton. Elion Melion As you use your faculty of objective imagination, see yourself looking around you, and you will notice a circle that is of a blue color, a circle that encloses you and helps keep away from you any inferior entities. It helps shield you from the many different vibrations of thought that exist within our household, our neighborhood, our community. And on the same token, when our thoughts are not the best, it helps shield everyone around us, even from our own thoughts. And invoking of this superior help and setting this circle of protection, we can invoke of our innermost by saying, Divine Father, Father of mine, you who are my true being, you who are my eternal God, we're here humbly at your presence, asking of you, begging of you for your contribution. We ask that it is you, Divine Father, the dominating entity within our own constitution. We make ourselves a fine and delicate instrument at your service. Give us, Father, the opportunity to see in this retrospective exercise that main problem that has been lingering within our life that we really must go and address. Give us, Father, an opportunity to be able to see exactly, with utmost clarity, what is the conflict? What is the obstacle that is keeping us stuck at that moment in time? Allow us, Divine Father, to see exactly what are the contradictions of the mind facing this conflict. And we ask that when the time is right, that you give us the uncompromising courage, the willingness to take the heroic action so that we can help bring the truth to light and do so in a way where we can learn from the instance, where we can clearly see our defect with the greatest of comprehensions, and that we may invoke of our Divine Mother to see that defect be reduced to a cosmic dust. Divine Father, we ask of this in your holy name, and we invoke of your help in the name of the Christ and by the power of Christ, by the love of Christ. So be it. Let's bring the attention of our consciousness down to the soles of our feet. Let's focus on our toes, our heels, our ankles. Let's bring that attention onto our shins, our calves, and our knees. And by now we can give faith of how easy it is to bring onto the body that gentle warmness of relaxation simply by empowering the consciousness to be observant. We bring our attention to our knees and the underside of our legs, and we instantaneously feel that sensation of relaxation growing from our knees, our hamstrings, our buttocks. And as we allow the consciousness to bring the attention to our thighs, we slowly feel how all that sensation of warmness inundates every tissue, every particle, every tendon, every ligament. And just like that, our legs experience a gentle sensation of that vibration that is so characteristic of being relaxed. Without any effort, we bring the attention of our consciousness to the base of our spine. And from there, we allow it to continue moving upwards, one vertebra at a time. And we contribute by making sure we are not keeping any muscles under any stress or tension. But we allow the consciousness to observe, and we feel that sensation of relaxation that inundates our creative organs, our hips, our lower abdomen, our internal organs, our stomach, our lungs, and our heart. When we bring the attention to our breathing, we can already see that our breathing is right now so much more effortless. The exhalation is more profound. And as we bring back the attention of our consciousness to the middle of our back, in that space that exists between our shoulder blades, let's continue allowing that attention to flow upwards. And we bring it to the base of our neck, so that that sensation of relaxation flows through our shoulders, and it cascades down onto our elbows, our wrists, our hands, our fingers. We are certain that this sense of relaxation that we are experiencing, we can invoke it at any time, whether today during the practice or at any time during the upcoming days. All that it takes is for us to invoke of our Father and ask our innermost to bring back this last state of relaxation. We bring the attention of our consciousness back to our neck, and we now focus on that space on the back of our neck and at the base of our skull, in that space that exists between our two ears. And as we do so, we immediately start feeling that gentle vibration of relaxation growing from the base of our skull and expanding upwards towards the crown of our head. Expanding along the sides towards our temples. And we relax the muscles of our forehead. We relax our eyes and our eyelids. We relax the muscles of our face, our lips, our jaw, our tongue. we started this exercise, making ourselves available as a fine and delicate instrument at the service of our innermost. To honor that, we can always chant that mantra, Om Masi Padme Hum, that when translated it means, O God, in me. Om Masi Padme Hum. 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 Let's begin our exercise of retrospection and embrace the principle of spontaneity. Invoke of your innermost to bring back this last state of relaxation if at any moment you feel you lose it. We focus on our breathing and we retrospect. Allow yourself to perceive and discern from within your heart. And you will have absolute certainty that what you see is what you know it is. Divine Mother, we invoke you, and we beg of you with our heart and our soul that you bring forth your flaming spear of arrows. Take of our creative power, Mother, and bring this defect to our cosmic dust. We ask of you that you free our consciousness, that you weaken this defect, that you reduce it to nothing. We ask of this in your holy name. So be it. Divine Mother, we're infinitely grateful for your help and your assistance. Divine Father, we give you infinite thanks for you being the one officiating in this exercise. We ask that everything materializes according to your will. Amen. 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 Now let's go ahead and take a deep breath in. 1, 2. 1, 2. And let's go ahead and open our eyes. So, dear friends, this has been our Gnostic Lab for this week. This has been How Is It That We Can Solve Problems? So, dear friends, thank you so much for participating with us this week. We hope that you can take this practice with you and put it to use every time that you feel there's a need, even as part of your meditation. So thank you so much for everyone being here with us. To everyone, a good night. May all beings be happy.